Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Who's Left Podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm broadcasting from Bloomington. My guest this evening is someone who's been with us before on the Sunday morning show, but this is our first time to sit down for a one-on-one. Kirsten Root is a Democratic candidate for Indiana State Senate District 21, which includes all of Tipton and parts of Hamilton and Howard counties, including the communities of Westfield, Sheridan, Tipton, and Kokomo. From her website, quote, Kirsten was raised in LaPorte and Rochester in a working class family where her hard work and responsibility were non-negotiable. She worked full-time through college to make ends meet and became the first person in her family to earn a master's degree in social work. Her career has meant sitting with families in crisis and partnering with community systems, including public safety and healthcare, to connect people to support before a situation becomes an emergency. She is running because Indiana needs practical, compassionate leadership rooted in real life. Oh, I see what she did there. Her campaign is about listening, showing up, and working together to strengthen our community. We'll get to know Kirsten, learn a little bit about the 21st District, and talk about some of her major policy ideas. But before we get there, you know the routine. This is an independent media project. We don't paywall content. We don't have billionaire benefactors. Only individuals like you keep this thing going. It is a foundational principle of Who's Left and the Progressive Indiana Network that we refuse to hide important information behind a paywall in the middle of a political crisis, even if that's not in our financial best interest. So please, if you find value in this work, and it is a lot of work, go to progressiveindiana.net and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 a year to help us build the infrastructure that will pop the right-wing media bubble in this state. And while a paid subscription is the best way to help us grow and sustain this project, you can help in other ways by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews, providing feedback, and forwarding our content to your people. You get us when you can. Mostly, we just want you here in this community of Hoosiers dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Please join us. You can follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us and on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Who's Left. That's HOOS Left. Progressive Indiana Network's handle is the full spelled out name on most sites, but on Blue Sky and TikTok, it's PIN Indiana. Please help us grow with a follow wherever you're at. Tell the others. Let's build a radically democratic Indiana together. Now, let's welcome to our show our guest tonight, Kirsten Root. Kirsten, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Scott.
I'm so glad we get a chance to do this. The first time you were with us on the show, it was a Sunday morning. David Henry was with us. We had a good time. Well, good time talking about terrible news, as is usually the case these days. But I'm excited to get a chance to get to know you a little better, learn about your campaign, kind of your outlook on life, and what Indiana needs in a leader. So, I like to begin all of these things sort of the same way with a segment I call the easy dubs, the easy journalism questions, the who, what, when, where. Obviously, the what is, hey, we've got an election coming up. The when is now. Early voting is open. The primary is on May 5th. More interesting are the who and the where. Kirsten, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Kirsten Root. Thank you so much for pronouncing it correctly. That's been a lifelong battle of mine, including on the ballot in Howard County. So I am originally from LaPorte, Indiana, but I now live in Sheridan, which is kind of in the southern part of my district. But I've been in Hamilton County for about 5 years now. I love my community, and I'm just excited to be a part of it and now get to serve it in a different way.
Well, fantastic. So, tell us a little bit more about your community. You've been out there campaigning, probably going to dinners and meetings and going all over your district and meeting folks. What's something you've maybe grown to appreciate about the 21st that you didn't know before? Something unique that you found out about your area as you've been traveling the 21st these last several months?
I think the most interesting thing has been on the union picket line with the NIPSCO workers lately. I'm originally from up north, and I didn't even realize that NIPSCO came down as far south as Kokomo. but there are only 17 workers who were affected by the lockout in like the really recent week. But there have been hundreds of people from across the state coming to support them. So I think just seeing like how important unions continue to be in our community and how much that really breeds like brotherhood and familiarity for people who have never met before, because we're getting up at 4:30, we're driving to Kokomo, meeting each other to harass some NIPSCO workers, which is the least of what we could do. And there's just always this familiarity and comfort in that we all have this common goal. So that's been really cool to see.
You're harassing management, I assume. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Management and scabs. That's it. Totally clean plate.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No. Kokomo has a long labor history, I assume, because Chrysler was there. Still is, I believe, to some extent. So with the auto industry, obviously you got UAW there and a lot of organized labor history, and it's good to see the solidarity in the community and the support that those folks have received. And I understand, you were telling me before we went live here that the lockout is supposed to end, and the workers are supposed to be signing a new contract here shortly.
Yes, they should hopefully be going back within the week. They're just waiting for a vote to finish up between the union and NIPSCO, but I believe they should be back to work by the end of the week.
Very good. Good for them. Good to see workers get their fair share, and the company realize that, hey, they can't do it without their employees.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of a wake-up call. NIPSCO's definitely tried to spin it in a way that makes them look like they're the heroes here by telling their workers, we're not going to turn off or telling the community, like, we're not going to turn off your power. We know you're struggling. And when in the background, it's, well, we don't have the workers to turn it off or turn it back on. So
yeah, but they totally would. We know how these monopoly utilities operate. You're from LaPorte originally, so you know all about NIPSCO. I'm from Michigan City originally. We're arch rivals, but we grow up seeing NIPSCO and just be the heels of our parents' lives. Like that generation always complained about NIPSCO's bills. In a way, I guess it's good to see that some things never change.
Yeah, greed continues to grow, and our government continues to roll with it and encourage it. But hopefully that changes here in the near future.
So we sort of covered the easy W's of journalism, the easy dubs, the who, what, when, where. The more interesting one, of course, is the why. So why are you running for state senate? Why run for elected office at all in these trying times? It might be easier to just look away and go, yeah, you know what, that's y'all's problem. And why state senate? Why not a different office? What called you to this position particularly?
Yeah, so the bulk of my professional career has been working in social services in some degree. So a lot of that was working with the Department of Child Services, investigating child abuse and neglect. While I was there, I was constantly seeing families hit the same walls of poverty, and we're doing our best, but that's not good enough, or being told that no matter what they do, they can't keep up. And that was coming from, jobs from the government, from the schools. Like families are working 2 or 3 jobs, and then their kids left home alone because they don't have a babysitter. And then all of a sudden we're involved, and it's like, okay, like this parent's doing everything they can, and the government is just punishing them for it. And one of the first things I was told in training is that we don't punish poverty. And I thought that was really interesting the longer I worked there, because that was absolutely not true. I think that was one of our biggest jobs, was to punish poverty, even in Hamilton County. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. Well, I was going to say, it's like as a social worker, that is your duty, right? Is to you're there to help these families, not to punish them. And your employer's like, hey, we don't punish poverty, but many times, like if you're working for DCS, for example, well, you're working for the state, and our state legislators, especially, they're all about punishing poverty, or and making poverty more prevalent. It's crazy how, like these go hand in hand. You want to reduce poverty ideally, but they make poverty worse, and then they punish it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note too, so to work for DCS, like you don't have to be a social worker, and they've actually like lowered their requirements to work there since I've been there. You don't even have to have a college degree anymore. And
oh my,
I think we're definitely seeing that decline across the state with all of our services. So I'm running for state senate because there are so many important positions in local government, but everything stems from the state level. If they don't have funding, if they're limiting what the local municipalities are able to do, nothing else is going to have as much of an impact as it should. So working within the state, I was seeing that the people who are in charge don't know what they're doing. My last director before I left had never worked in any sort of family or child services before. He'd only worked in finance and business. And I know that's who I want taking care of my children for the whole state, is someone who probably shouldn't babysit my kids. But it's just frustrating to see that we're putting incompetent people in charge. So if we can do that, then I'm more than qualified. I have an education. I know to not be a pedophile or sign on with them. I feel like I'm already hitting it out of the park. So why not just go for it?
The bar is in hell.
Yes.
You got at a couple things though. Like, first of all, in the state Senate this year, that there was one priority bill. The House had 4. A couple of them were actually half decent, or at least their aims were half decent. Some half measures, and the bills got whittled down, or whatever. But still, like the state House Republicans at least had the stated goal of trying to make housing more affordable and to make utilities more affordable. The state Senate, on the other hand, their goal was to make it harder for people to get the services they needed, particularly the kind of folks that you are working with on a day-to-day basis and need that extra help. How has that affected folks? Well, first of all, I guess, has Senate Enrolled Act 1 already started to affect the families that you're seeing?
Senate, that act, I think, is the bane of my entire existence. Over the last year, I've been working with people with the Sheriff's Department, with the Coroner's Office here to develop social work programs. And those are now off the table because of that bill, because they don't have money to hire detectives that they need. They can't pay for new training. They are losing funding for mental health. I know our health department had a significant cut to their budget. And that's what I've heard from all of our communities. I've tried to meet with all of our law enforcement, fire departments, public works, and everybody's saying the same thing, that they're not getting any increases, and it's going to continue to harm the communities.
And the other thing you sort of mentioned that rang a bell to me is you said, they're lowering the hiring standards, and that sort of speaks to the brain drain that we experience in this state. And folks with college degrees, maybe they get them in Indiana, then they get out of Dodge because, well, various reasons. Number one, our state's kind of on the lower earnings spectrum. I think we're ranked in the bottom 5 in quality of life, maybe in the bottom 2, if I recall the survey I'm thinking of. We're a hostile state toward women, so it's hard to keep educated professionals around in things like social work and things like education and things like healthcare, and those positions still need filled.
Yeah, it's something that I've been really surprised by. Is I met a lot of people who have moved here from Montana specifically because they really liked. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know why that is now. A lot of them have said that they moved here because they heard it was affordable. They heard that there were similar values here to what was going on in Montana. But every single one that I've met who's moved here has said that we are doing exactly what Montana did 10 years ago, where we're raising taxes, we're causing this brain drain because we are limiting services to people and not prioritizing education or healthcare or anything. and they're regretting moving here. And it's been an odd thing because I don't know why that state specifically keeps coming up, but I think it just speaks to like people still have the same values and they wanted us to be better, and we're just seeing that continuous decline.
And that's sad. And at least Montana is like, very, very beautiful in terms of the physical features of the state and the landscape. Not that Indiana doesn't have its natural beauty. Don't get me wrong. Hey, hold your fire. But Montana is notoriously it's big sky country. It's gorgeous out there. But yeah, it's the same playbook you see again in these quote unquote red states, and it's that we basically give everything over to private interests. We gut public services. Oh my God, doing anything public is communism, right?
Yes, of course. I think that's been one of my favorite things that people have called me, that and a terrorist for not supporting ICE, my top two right now. But it's important, though, that we really do look at what I think we've been really guilty as a state of labeling things as communism, socialism, whatever that is, without really looking at what the intentions are behind anything and how those programs work. We're seeing in New York City how socialist programs are exceptionally popular and do a really good job since Mamdani has taken over, or Mamdani, sorry, excuse me, has taken over in the city. We've seen exorbitant, wonderful policies going to work immediately. And I think that's something that we can do here in Indiana. My friend Jackson Franklin keeps saying that, like, once we get people in charge, we just need to act like we just took the car, stole it, and take off as fast as we can. And I think right now we're seeing a lot of people wanting change. And I really want to follow through on that once we get a little more control here in the state.
Well, and, listen, I come back to this again and again and again. The sentiment behind "Make America Great Again," right? With the whole MAGA thing, they sort of harken back to when America was on the up and up, when we were strong, when we were on the upswing, when you could raise a family and buy a home and have a car on a single income and save and send your kids to school, and the quality of life was increasing. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that did not make it to everybody, but we were improving in those regards. And since, say, I don't know, 1980, maybe Ronald Reagan, we've been fighting into it is Reagan's the root of all evil, but or at least the root of all the problems in this country. You can see where they began, and it's the Reagan era, and and precisely because that was the go yay capitalism, we're going to deregulate everything, anything collective is bad, socialism is bad. And there's this great quote by Harry Truman. He says that socialism is a scare word they've hurled at every advance the people have made. Socialism, what they call public power, social security, deposit insurance, and independent labor organizations. Socialism is their name for anything that helps all the people. And what we did then, when, America was great, it was a little bit of socialism, but we didn't call it that.
Yeah. And I think that's the lesson that we're learning right now, is that we can, as leftists, as people who are progressive and wanting change, we need to be careful with the language that we're using, because propaganda does work so powerfully. And I wish we had a phrase that was as catchy as "Make America Great Again." I don't know that we're going to find one, because we can be wordy, but also because things are more complicated than 4 words. I mean, we can't solve everything with a phrase.
I mean, listen, if make America great again means taxing the top marginal income earners at 91%, if it means raising the corporate rate to like 50%, if it means investing in public infrastructure projects, sign me up.
I will wear whatever hat is going to contain all of that.
Yes. But alas, sadly, that's not what they're getting at. They're getting at the thing I hinted to, where those improvements didn't make it to everybody, and it was very much the white middle class that benefited while everybody else was sort of left behind at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I'm really seeing in the Democratic space right now as I'm struggling with, is that there are conversations that identity politics and like the trans community and focusing on people of color is part of why we're losing. And I just have really been struggling with that, because I want to be clear that that's not why we're losing. We're losing because we're not supporting the working class. That's what we've gotten away from. But I want to make sure that like we as a party are focusing on still continuing to support those groups of people and still enacting laws that protect them.
And we have to do both, right?
Yes,
I think
exactly.
the criticism of, or at least my criticism of identity politics in the Democratic Party is that it's hollow identity politics. It's identity politics only without that working class component, and you have to have both. And listen, if you take care of people at the margins economically first, that lifts everybody up. So yeah, we have to aim those economic problems, our solutions directly at the people who need it most, and explain how that lifts everybody up. There's synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you just look at it from a non-moral standpoint and from purely financial, it benefits everybody. I mean, that's the power of unions. That's why we need to get rid of things like right to work, because the more that we work as a collective, the more powerful we are as a working class.
Let's dig into some of that a little bit. Normally I do these candidate interviews and I'm like, all right, we're going to talk about your three big things. And we can do that, but I looked at your website and I'm sort of looking for your three big things, and you've got 7 big things, very nicely laid out, well thought out, and each of your 7 has a lot of detail. It's good. Some candidates are kind of opaque. You don't know exactly what it is that they stand for. You put it all out there. Like, you've very much thought about all of the big problems we're facing as a state and how we should tackle all of them. The things that we kind of come back to in these spaces all the time: healthcare, education, labor rights, and in many ways these things are sort of all tied together. I don't know where you want to necessarily begin there. One of the things I think that you mentioned that maybe gets lost in the shuffle that we don't talk a lot about here as much is giving control back to the local governments. The state has very much sort of imposed itself on localities, ironically, for the party of small government, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely been an odd shift. I mean, we saw a bill pass this last year that was meant to dissolve townships, and we see money being taken from the local governments. We see support that was being given being limited, and then the communities are told, "Oh, we're saving you money in property taxes," like so with SEA 1. When in reality, now the local communities are the ones who are facing the consequence of that, because they're having to raise their taxes. And mayors are being blamed, county councils, when they're just trying to maintain the bare minimum. There's also been a lot of limitations put on local governments, like rent restrictions, being told that they can't have that. It's insane. I mean, it's not small government.
And it's not fiscally responsible either, because you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think that SEA 1, not this past year's SEA 1, but 2025's Senate Enrolled Act 1. That was Mike Braun's big property tax reform bill, right? And I want to say, the average homeowner saw maybe modest savings. I think they were estimating it to be somewhere around $300 per homeowner. It didn't even wind up being that, just because home value, like inflation, and the home values have gone up. So maybe the property tax percentage has gone down, but people actually haven't saved any dollars in the long run. But what has happened, excuse me, is that counties and that cities and townships have had their funding reduced, and we're going to have to make that up by increasing local taxes. Maybe those may be harder to get across the finish line, and so local services suffer. And it's fiscally irresponsible. It's more efficient to have a bigger pool and to buy things in bulk, right? Listen, everybody loves Sam's Club and Costco. It's cheaper when you buy in bulk. The same thing works with public services. It's easier for the state to buy things than it is for localities to buy things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big part of what I'm wanting to do. So like if we boil down to my top three, number three is going to be focusing on our local governments and ensuring that there is care before crisis. A lot of our state is facing huge gaps in healthcare. They're not able to get any sort of basic services. A lot of counties don't even have a basic labor and delivery ward. So you're having to go out of state. Or out of state, out of county, although sometimes out of state, depending on where you live, right? So like even in Hamilton County, we're the wealthiest county in the state, right? It's commonly known that like, if anybody can do it, Hamilton County can do it, but we don't even have a SANE nurse. So if you are raped, sexually assaulted, including your child, you still have to go out of county to get a basic service.
Wow.
And it's an issue that we've had for a long time, and everybody's having to go to Indianapolis for my people who lived on the north half of the county. Sometimes that's an hour and a half drive in minimum. And that's insane. So a lot of what I'm wanting to do is put money back into our local communities and ensure that they're actually able to have healthcare. And it might not look the same for every county, but just giving that power back to local governments is exceptionally important.
Well, and again, with the Republicans, they always they come in heavy with the tough on crime and the public safety angle, and defunding your localities affects public safety. It affects police and fire departments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spoken with several departments at this point, including the Howard County Sheriff, who is very much Republican and has endorsed one of my candidates. But we had a great hour and a half long conversation about how the state is not funding the services that he needs, including mental health capabilities, including taking care of inmates. Like they just got nurses. They don't even have public EMS in Kokomo. I mean, what are we paying for if it's not at least an ambulance?
So really, so where's all the money going, right? And I think that gets to the overarching theme of your platform as we looked at the healthcare, education, the prison reform you talk about as well in your platform, and really all of these come down to one of your points was to end corporate greed. And well, listen, it's for-profit prisons, corporate greed. It's for-profit healthcare, corporate greed. It's these private schools and these charter schools that come in. It's greed is sort of the root of all of these problems in here. It is that our public resources are being siphoned off for private gain.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our utilities too. We looked at the NIPSCO and the IURC, the cronies that they are doing their investigation to, why are these utility bills going up? We didn't approve this, which is, and it's a choice to go out and tell the communities you don't know what it is when NIPSCO has a 17% increase in their bills while their profits go up a fairly similar number. Sure, there's no coincidence there. And while Blackstone is buying even more of our corporations and our utilities, everything does come down to corporate greed in our state. That's what it is across the board. We gave Walmart $17 million in subsidies last year, and that's money that we could have put towards anything else. But even if we're looking at it in supporting businesses, that's money we could have put towards small businesses. It's something that we could have put towards public programs. And that's just something that I really want to see go away.
And even if it's like, okay, hey, Walmart will give you these tax incentives to come in and put your warehouse here or to build a store here because they employ people. Okay, well, they employ people at poor wages. I mean, the very least we could do is increase the minimum wage in this town or in this state. And when these corporations come in, they have to pay their folks a decent wage. And so they're not relying on SNAP benefits and Medicaid while they still are working full time. It's absurd.
Yeah, Absolutely. And I think it's time for us to refocus our energies, because if I hear people are worried about SNAP fraud, they're worried about all these things, but it's literally a simple solution. We just install chip cards and all of a sudden we've gotten rid of most of our fraud within the state. I think it really makes it clear that the Republican Party in our state have been focusing on how can we demonize people instead of actually finding solutions to things and following up on the corporate greed. I really appreciate that you gave me a layup here with talking about the healthcare that we've got. My number one is ensuring that we have healthcare for all Hoosiers. So we can't do Medicare for all as a state. I recognize that. That's we'd have to get the federal government to sign off, and I would be hard pressed to get them to do that. But what we can do is we can expand our HIP program to allow anybody to use that service. We're already paying for everybody's insurance. We just don't know it. Or at least it's not incredibly obvious. But with doing that, it would give everybody a public insurance option that would cover everything that they need. And it would give them those benefits at an affordable rate.
But of course, there are corporate interests in the state which donate to our lawmakers, and donate is a kind word there, which own our lawmakers, bribe our lawmakers, either directly or indirectly, and to make sure that these things never get done. We are headquarters, I believe, of one of the largest insurance conglomerates in the country. That's Elevance. They used to be Anthem. They're headquartered in Indianapolis. I imagine a lot of that executive class is living up there in Hamilton County in your neck of the woods. They don't want any part of a public option because that cuts into their lifestyle. So the rest of us suffer while they are living high on the hog.
Yeah, and I think that really highlights the importance of us having a democracy that's actually focused on the people. It's important for us to start moving towards a system where our elections are funded by people instead of by corporations. I don't think people realize how much people really are bought off. So Jim Buck, the incumbent that I'm running against, his biggest contributor as far as corporations is NiSource, who owns NIPSCO, and then followed by Duke Energy, and then followed by, I can't think of the other name. But it's crazy how he is so pro removing restrictions on utility companies when he's taking that money.
Yeah, how did he arrive at these decisions? I mean, it's just because he really, really loves economic freedom, right? He believes in the free market. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
freedom as long as it's not a woman's right to an abortion or basic health care. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Freedom is one of these malleable words. It can mean whatever you want to, depending on the situation. And that's another one of your major points that you talk about, is obviously supporting a woman's right to choose, trying to get the state's near total abortion ban repealed, and again, just. Obviously, I think the way we look at this is, yes, abortion care is health care. Women's choice is between her and her family and her doctor. But also, if you just want to look at things completely cynically, it's bad economics in our state. Like we said, poor quality of life. It's hard to retain professionals here. They want to get out. No one wants to come here. No one wants to live in Gilead.
Yeah, absolutely. Even our OB programs for schools are suffering at this point. Colleges aren't even able to get students at this point because they can't practice healthcare here. Several OB clinics across the state have been closing down because we can't take care of these kids. And if we're really that worried about pro-life, then these are things that we would be taking care of. We would be making sure that these programs are fully funded. We would be making sure that our rural areas have basic access to prenatal care, but that's not the case right now.
And it does. It all comes back to greed. It really does. And for the party that's claims to be pro-life, right? They want women to have these kids, but then once the kids are born, tough luck. You're on your own. We don't have any kind of daycare system in this state that's worth a damn. Now, I guess, Mike Braun just asked for like a $200 million injection into the state's daycare system with the vouchers to open enrollment back up. There's still going to be 20,000 plus kids on this wait list. They set the fire. They put it out partially. They're celebrating while the embers are still burning.
Yeah, I mean, if I took away my dog's food bowl and then I threw 3 pieces of food at her, she's not going to be thrilled with me. She's still going to look at me like an idiot. And that's exactly how we need to be treating Mike Braun, because he has continued to strip our services, and then we're supposed to be thankful for it. Meanwhile, we're giving $15 million of investments to Israel to bring in telecommunications that nobody asked for. That's not giving us healthcare. It's not giving us education. It's not doing anything helpful for us as a people.
Oh my God! Yeah, I saw this Iron Nation initiative that they announced the plan, and it's public money. They're investing our tax dollars into, I don't know what, trying to genocide more children over there in that region. At again, real pro-life, right? Very much so. Nothing says pro-life more than bombing kids in a school, as I think the current line. Yeah. Well, oh my God. And I don't know if you saw there a really good article on Substack, a publication called The Big Money. The author is Tom Pigott, and he put out a great piece last week that kind of tied that strike on that Iranian girls' school right back here to Indiana. The Applied Research Institute is a sort of a public-private partnership that involves both IU and Purdue and the IEDC, and they had a role in developing this like Maven smart system technology that turns out not very smart.
Yeah, I desperately wish that I could say I was surprised, but when we're one of the most fascist states and within a fascist country, nothing is surprising at this point anymore.
How, you and I see it. We can zoom out and look at the big picture and, use the F word, and some folks, even on our side of the aisle, are like, oh, don't say that. We're not a fascist country. We're not a fascist state. And because like you think fascism, and this is another one of these exercises in branding, right? Oh, like fascism only means there's tanks in the streets and there are death camps. And like many things, fascism is a spectrum, Franco in Spain was a fascist. Pinochet in Chile was a fascist. There weren't tanks in the streets. Well, maybe in Franco's Spain there were tanks in the streets, but they weren't running people over. And, Pinochet's Spain, very much free market fascism. It looks different in different places, and I think because we're in it, we have a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have the tanks in the streets, but we do have death camps. I mean, we have people dying in Peru right now within the ICE camps, and I think that the longer that we continue to deny that and continue to deny that it's a real issue, the longer it's going to go on. I don't think the American people are stupid. People are figuring it out and they're starting to fight back. We don't have the tanks, but we do have black SUVs going around and kidnapping people off the streets. That's still fascism. I was at a dog park in Ireland in December, and that was part of a graduation present. I'm not wealthy, for the record, but I was at a dog park in Ireland, and somebody asked me what it's like to live in a fascist country. And that's not something that I expected to be asked outright while we were on vacation, but the rest of the world is seeing it too. And I think it's time for our party, at the very least, to be acknowledging it instead of continuing to say that we agree with everybody and we like everybody and playing nice, because it doesn't serve anybody.
And I think part of reckoning with that is acknowledging our own part in getting there. You say you never thought you'd be asked that, while you're on vacation. You never think you'd be asked that as an American. And we've sort of gotten high on our own supply here. We think it can't happen here. And, a certain segment of the Democratic Party has played a role in being the handmaidens to these fascists because, the guy who invented the term fascism, that was Mussolini, defined it as the merger of corporation and state. And far too many Democrats have been far too comfortable with too much corporate power, too much corporate consolidation, too much corporate money. They think, oh, I can take this money. It won't affect me. I won't owe these people favors. I'm going to use it and flip it around for good. You never can turn it and flip it around for good. You're tainted by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's time that we really recognize that. I mean, we're seeing that in several races, right? But I mean, specifically, we're seeing that in CD5. There have been conversations about how money is used. And I had a conversation with a candidate who told me that he feels like Robin Hood and is flipping that money to support other races like the state Senate. And it's like, what makes you think you're not tainted, first of all? Because you're taking that money and you're following the same path that everybody else who said, I'm going to do better, has taken. And it's embarrassing. We see it in the Secretary of State race. Not Blythe Potter. She is wonderful. She would never take corporate money. But we do see that with Bo Bai. And it's something that we really need to be more cognizant of and having open conversations about.
Who pays for your campaign matters. It does. And Hoosiers are not dumb. We know what's going on. We see it. And I think for the longest time, as Democrats, we've sort of tried to run to the center, be more like the Republicans, serve the same interests as the Republicans, but put a happy face on it. Maybe, we're kinder and gentler. But if folks don't see that you're fighting for them, they either will vote for folks who share other values with them. Maybe it is some of those cultural values. But I do think generally folks are more concerned about their kitchen table first. But if both parties are taking food off your kitchen table, or they're, working for the guy who makes your dinner more expensive, then you're going to vote for the guy who, talks about the other things you care about. Right now, we don't have a party that's fighting for people's economic interests. We have two parties that are working for the corporations with different sort of cultural views of the world, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first musical that I ever was willing to watch was Hamilton, and I'm very thrilled that was the first one. But there's this important distinction that comes up throughout it where Hamilton sides with Thomas Jefferson because he's like, you're the worst, but at least I know what you're doing. And then Aaron Burr, his friend, coworker, whatever you want to call him, is upset with him because Aaron Burr this entire time had been the cowardly man standing by the side and saying, I'm not going to pick a side. And I think that's what we've continued to do as a Democratic Party. But then anytime that criticism is brought up, we back away from it and say that that's not unifying and that's not helpful. And I think it really shows how weak the Democratic Party has become because we can do better. And I think it's important for us to be supporting leadership who really believes in that and is willing to take a stand and show what it can mean to be a Democrat again.
Because we used to be that way.
Yes.
When America was great, right?
Right.
That was things that the Democrats did. That was FDR. That was the New Deal. That was Social Security. That was LBJ and Medicare and Medicaid and support for labor rights. And, all of the things that made America great were brought to you by Democrats, but not just any kinds of Democrats. It was New Deal Democrats. It was FDR Democrats. And we've sort of lost our way on that. We threw all that out with the Clinton era, I believe. And too many of us are sort of still stuck there. I think in Indiana specifically, our Democratic Party is stuck in the Clinton era because we had some wins then. And okay, we won. But like I was saying, we have to acknowledge our own role in this. Those corporate Democrats helped pave the way here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why people aren't supporting them anymore. That's why we've gotten as lost as we have. But I think with campaigns that are really fighting for that again and really working to represent unions versus taking money from the people locking them out, if we take people who are willing to acknowledge the biases and the privileges that they have, we can really get back on track. I had a gentleman who's a pastor in Kokomo ask me specifically, he was like, listen, I'm Black. This is obviously him talking, not me. But he was like, I'm Black and the Democratic Party thinks I'm going to vote for them just because they're the Democrats. Why are you different than that? And I was like, listen, you shouldn't trust me. Historically, I'm a white woman. I don't blame you because you should not trust me. But what I can tell you is that I will do everything I can to earn that trust. Just give me a chance. And I think that's really where we need to be coming at it from, is a place of, what's the word that I want? From a place of humility and just taking that step back and looking at what people are really wanting, because people are wanting change. They want fighters. They're sick of people who are just telling them what they want to hear.
We've been voting for change, at least at the top level, and I think it generally percolates down to the state and local level as well, where maybe people aren't as plugged in, pay attention, sort of the national politics have swallowed up all the oxygen in the room, and those sort of fights have, play out here on a smaller scale. But we've been voting for change for 20 years. I remember the Obama election, and I think people forget, number one, how hard the Democratic establishment fought him at the time, how nasty Hillary Clinton's campaign against him was, until they finally saw the writing on the wall. But he ran as an unapologetic progressive, and people were all about that, and he won in a landslide. And the problem was that once he got into power, we didn't govern as unapologetic progressives. We didn't go big. We didn't hold people who had gotten us into that situation accountable. We said, oh, I'm not going to look back. Oh, I'm looking forward, right? And so we didn't do the big things that needed to be done. Listen, say what you will about Trump, and there's a million terrible things that man has done. But if we've learned nothing from him, it's that, you can go big. They've gone big totally in the wrong direction. Do not mistake what I'm saying here.
Right.
But we can do big things. We shouldn't be constrained by timidity. And Democrats, I think, have been constrained by timidity. In 2016, people wanted change. Things weren't working for them. The failure of the Obama era was that we didn't go big. People were still struggling in 2016, so they wanted something different. Hillary Clinton was more of the same. And yes, I know she would have been an infinitely better president than Donald Trump. Don't at me. I've heard it before. But it's not me you've got to convince. It's the average voter who isn't as plugged in, who largely is based on vibes and, only catches a 5% of all of the stuff that we pay attention to as political junkies. But people wanted change, and Trump dropped the ball badly in his first term, especially with mismanaging COVID. People were like, oh my God, this is terrible. We want change. They went with Joe Biden just because he was not Trump then. And to his credit, and I don't think President Biden gets enough credit for trying to go big. And he did, I think, try to be more ambitious than Obama even was. And was constrained by, a handful of corporate-owned Democrats, these third-way types like Joe Manchin. And didn't do the things that needed to be done. And so because of our failure to do the big things, we got more Trump. People have been voting for change this whole time. We can't be what we've become. We've become the conservative party.
Yes. In the rest of the world, we're still conservative. But I think that speaks to the importance of primaries, though, because we have until May 5th to get people on the primary ticket, on the general ticket, who really are going to put in the work, who are really fighting for something different. We don't need people running who are accepting that corporate money behind closed doors and saying, well, at least they're not Victoria Sparks. We need people who are going to actually be fighting for the working class. And I think that across the state, we're seeing really competitive primaries of people who are willing to fight and are willing to call out bad behavior by both parties. And I really hope that that's speaking to the voters, because to the voters, if you want change, now's the time to do it. In the general, it'll come down to who you voted for right now.
It really is. So, you are in a contested primary. Why are you the right person in this race?
Yeah, so I absolutely adore my opponent. He is the sweetest, most wonderful man. But if you want somebody who's going to go to the Statehouse and fight for you, I'm the one. I am not afraid to be outright about what needs to change. In our opening speeches, one of us will tell you that we'll do our best, but we're in a minority, so I don't know how much I can do. And one of us will tell you, screw that, I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm going to bully these Republicans and go to their counties and educate their populace, because we're a part-time legislature and I have nothing better to do. And I'm the second one. I'm the one who's going to be willing to throw down and cause a scene across the state and really fight for things to change.
The whole Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high thing hasn't worked. When they go low, you step on them.
Yeah, when they go low, we just build a new highway and we start fresh. And I think that's really what we can do at this point. They can go low. That's fine. I'm a woman. There's nothing you can say to me at this point that's gonna top anything between that and working for the Department of Child Services. There's not a thing in this world that's gonna scare me. So I'm excited for the challenge.
And it really does speak to the times we're in. They demand a fighter. We want to probably hang out and spend time and have lunch with the nice guy, right? And there's a place for that. The place for that is not the Statehouse currently. It is not Congress currently. Well, we're dealing with extremists. We're dealing with far-right fascists. They don't understand compromise and playing nice and horse trading. They understand they are bullies. The only way to deal with a bully is to punch the bully back.
Right. And we're seeing that, even, I hate to keep bringing up Mondani, but we're seeing that in being transparent and talking to them straight to their face, like, you are a fascist, you are acting like one. And that's respected because they at least think that you have a backbone and will give you time for a conversation. But when we're just sitting there saying, I'll meet you halfway, and people are dying across the board and across the district because of that, what have we done? We didn't compromise. We just sold ourselves.
Well, also, it's bad negotiating to start from the place of compromise.
Yes.
If that's where you want to end, you start over here. You plant your flag in your values and you say, I'm not going to budge. And, then you work back from there. It's like too many of our mainstream centrist Democrats learned how to negotiate watching that Monty Python movie where it's like, no, you have to haggle.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a salesperson. I work in social work, so it's a different world. But when I'm talking to somebody and I tell them, like, hey, either you can do these things and your life's going to get better, or you cannot do them and your life's going to continue to suck. That's a choice that you have, and that's the only deal I have for you. And I think we've lost the plot in trying to be nice, and absolutes are a bad thing generally, right? But like you said, if we're not standing in our values and being absolute in at least that, we're just wasting everybody's time.
I love it. So, Kirsten, if folks in the 21st want a fighter, if they want to help get a fighter over the finish line in the primary, how can they get a hold of you? How can they learn more about you? Where can folks go to donate, volunteer, just learn more about you and your campaign in general?
Yeah, so my website's the easiest. It's rootforindiana.org. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. And then I'm on almost all social medias at this point: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat me. I don't know. Pretty much anywhere that you can Google me, I'm making myself accessible. We're also having a town hall tomorrow night, child safety panel on Thursday night. I'm in the community.
Very good. Well, Kirsten, it has been a pleasure. I'm glad we got a chance to do this and just talk big picture. We didn't go super deep into all of your campaign ideas. Let's go to Kirsten's website. Again, that was rootforindiana.org. She's got everything laid out very nicely, well thought out, very transparent about what you believe and what you are going to fight for there. So folks can go check that out there. But it's just good to think big together with you. And I'm glad we got a chance to do this tonight.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks, Kirsten Root, for joining me here tonight on the Who's Left podcast. Stick around. I'm going to say goodbye to the folks. I will say goodbye to you on the other side.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was Kirsten Root, candidate for Indiana State Senate up there in the 21st District, Tipton, Kokomo, Westfield, Sheridan. Help her out wherever you can. Again, the website was rootforindiana.org. Thanks to her for being here with me, and thanks to you for watching or listening. Tune in Thursday night on many of these same streams at 8 p.m., where I will be moderating a Democratic primary debate for Indiana's 6th congressional district. Participants in that include William Corey Amix, Nick Baker, and Cindy Worth. Then at 2 p.m. Saturday, Progressive Indiana Network also hosts a online-only congressional debate in the 9th District, where Brad Meyer, Tim Peck, and Kyle Rourke face off. Casey Blundell will be in the moderator's chair for that one. And as I am every Sunday, I will be live at 10:30 a.m. for Who's Left This Week, Indiana's only unapologetically progressive Sunday morning politics show. We'll talk about the week's top stories from U.S. and international news to what's going on here in our neighborhood and how it's all interconnected. Tune in on YouTube, Facebook Live, and of course at progressiveindiana.net. My guests this week are 7th District Congressional candidate Destiny Wells and Hancock County Democratic Party Vice Chair Chuck Gill. We hope to see you there in the chat. One last reminder to please consider supporting Who's Left and the wider Progressive Indiana Network with a paid subscription if you're able. This independent media project relies solely on the generosity of kind patrons like you to make this information available for free to everybody. Again, that's at progressiveindiana.net. We could also really use a follow on social media at Progressive Indiana Network on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the same handle. Over on Blue Sky and TikTok, the handle is PIN Indiana. You can find me on most social media sites at Who's Left. You can send me a DM anywhere with feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns, or email me directly at scott@whosleft.us. Finally, please forward the show to a friend, have them pass it on to. Let's keep building this project and a truly democratic state, one conversation at a time. Until the next one, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.